ladies and gentlemen. I couldn't join you in Beijing this time. The themes for this year's edition of the China International Fair for Trade in Services: opening up, cooperation, innovation, and smart services, reflect some of the driving forces in economies today. Services are at the heart of countries' growth and development agenda. This is because the world economy is more and more service-centric. Services account for 67% of GDP worldwide and 50% of jobs, and constitute the most dynamic component of trade. Assessed in value-added terms, services trade already represents more than 50% of global trade. As a latest World Bank WTO joint study put it, services are, quote, central determinants of productivity, competitiveness, and rising living standards. The ability to supply, access, and export efficient, affordable, and innovative services has become central to the realization of development strategies, end quote. This points to why China's national development plans set out objectives and a roadmap for the services sector, including services trade. Though China's economic rise is widely seen as a manufacturing story, the fact is that China could not have become the world's factory without the range of services necessary for industrial supply chains to function well. China is becoming a services supply and demand hub as well. Years of rapid services trade growth have made China the world's fourth largest services exporter and the second largest services importer. The country is now home to famous tech companies such as Alibaba, Tencent, and ByteDance. Since China acceded to the WTO in 2001, its share of world services exports has increased by over 2.5 times, from 2.4 to 6.5% in 2021. Innovation remains at the heart of the growth and transformation of services trade. Decades ago, it was container shipping and credit card payments. Today, it is digital platforms and fintech solutions that are revolutionizing the services sector and unlocking new avenues for productivity, growth, job creation, and trade. During the COVID-19 pandemic, when tourism, travel, and other in-person services collapsed, digital services trade thrived, becoming a lifeline both for businesses and homebound consumers. Numerous innovations emerged or achieved scale during the pandemic, from contactless delivery to virtual conferences, telemedicine, and remote work solutions. These innovations are transforming our lives, and they are transforming how services are traded across borders. After registering double-digit growth in 2020 and 2021, global exports of digitally delivered services, that is, services delivered over digital networks, were worth $3.8 trillion, equivalent to 54% of global services trade and 12% of total trade in goods and services. Services will also be critical for transitioning our economies to a low-carbon, sustainable future. Green services, from low-carbon mobility such as carpooling and bicycle sharing to smart electricity grids that better manage and store energy from intermittent sources such as wind and solar, will be a key part of the puzzle for meeting the climate challenge. Services are critically important for socioeconomic inclusion because they disproportionately employ young people and women. The overwhelming majority of micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, MISMEs, that account for the lion's share of employment in China as elsewhere, operate in the services sector. To unlock the full potential of services trade as a driver of growth and job creation, we need to do more at the international level. Services-related trade costs are roughly double those for goods. International cooperation can help lower these costs while still preserving space for legitimate regulation in the public interest. The WTO has already been delivering results in this area. Around 70 WTO members, including China, together accounting for more than 92% of global services trade, have signed up to an agreement on services domestic regulation, a set of good regulatory practices that will lower business costs by making rules simpler and more transparent. More recently, over 110 of the WTO's 164 members concluded negotiations on the text of an agreement on investment facilitation, which promises to simplify and therefore encourage foreign direct investment in all economic sectors, services, and goods. In addition, a group of nearly 90 WTO members, including the US, the EU, and China, are working hard to develop a set of basic global rules for digital trade. There are additional steps governments can take at the multilateral level to bolster services trade, such as improving existing services commitments. Revitalizing the multilateral trading system requires dedicated engagement from all WTO members, including China. As a key stakeholder in the multilateral trading system, China can help foster the international cooperation needed to maximize the benefits from services trade.